Slow it up. And technology is here to stay, and we need to embrace it. But if our students don't have the executive functioning skills to be able to access what they read or what they find out in a YouTube video, it's still not going to work. They need to be able to process it. They need to be able to go step by step. Then they need to apply it. Then they need to do it. All of those are executive functioning skills. Those are the skills that we've seen since COVID are underdeveloped. And that's the work that's the glue that makes everything go. Right? When the last time you saw a family sit down and play a board game, a card game? Those those skills are so important in building executive functioning skills. Playing peekaboo when a child is young, that's building executive function skills. Or a teacher in high school or middle school, you're talking about something that happened in history and you show an image and then you take that image away and you say to your students, tell me what you remember about the war or that image that I put. That's building executive function skills. It doesn't have to be separate and apart. It can be within your content area. You can build them both at the same time. But if we don't build it, that's why we're seeing behavior issues. That's why we're seeing a lot of the issues in school that we're seeing. We've not built their executive function skills.
Yeah.
Now, not everybody we weren't born with them, but everybody is capable of developing them.
Ooh. Well, I guess I have two questions. So, the grading system, school system, is like you go to a higher grade within your age, not really within the development of the grade. How would you determine if there was a new way to upgrade and to level up? I would consider like level ups in different areas rather than now you're on to grade 2 because you just turned this age. Like year after year, I'll consider it like a 10-year-old could learn something from an 8-year-old. The 8-year-old could learn something from a 10-year-old. And it creates like mentor systems too while they're young as well. And gives them different leadership skills as well because then it shows like leaders are not always going to be older. Leaders are not always going to be younger. It's diversified and it's getting diversified since the beginning. Like I think like a level system of like, oh, you just did like grading, but for levels. Like you just did this for math. Oh, we know you're great in math. That you're doing really well in this. But in this level, it's like not doing too well. But you could teach like Sally how to do some math, and Anthony could teach you how to do some reading. And Anthony's not too well in math, so go ahead and teach some Anthony to really like trade some things together. I think that education system would probably work really well. Elon Musk, he talks about it too. I got the idea from Elon Musk because he really talks about education in that aspect. I guess one of my questions for is like, what are the principles of developing the mind for reading? So we talked about like taking the image away, describing it. We talked about like we gave a couple of different examples that just wasn't just sitting in front of a book and reading line by line. So there must be principles. And I'm high. I'm like I love talking about principles because those are like core universal truths. They're the core of what we do. So yeah.
So yeah, the science tells us that there are 5 pillars, or however way you want to call it. People say skills, pillars, whatever you want to call them. There's 5, right? It's phonological awareness. That begins very, very, very young. It's from 0. So phonological awareness. Then there's phonics. There's vocabulary, background knowledge, fluency, and then there's comprehension. You need all 5. You need all 5 to be a skilled reader, and it needs the type of instruction. It needs to be explicit and systematic. You have to build these skills, and you don't build phonological awareness. And once you're done with that, you go to phonics. They're interrelated. So you need all five. And what happened just recently, some people are still using the same antiquated instructional methods to develop readers. They took phonics out, right? And essentially, they said that if you expose children to good literature, um, then they can guess a word that they don't know, or they can guess the shape of the word and use the shape of the word to figure out its meaning. It's a lot of guessing, right? And it was not a good method. And so, bringing back phonics, we're saying that you need to sound out the word, right? Because if you go with the other way and you just memorize words, your brain is not capable of memorizing that much, right? And also, if you learn the sounds of words, then you can pretty much, once you learn the sounds, once you get the pattern, you can pretty much read anything once you sound it out. And so we need all five, and we need them to be taught explicitly and systematically in our schools. If we don't do that, then we're not going to change the reading problem that we have.
Right.
We're just not going to. We have to do all five. And it begins zero. It begins at the moment of conception, building phonological awareness skills, building phonics. It begins early. When we're talking with our children, when we're bathing them and we're talking to them, when we're holding them and we take them to the window and we say, yes, that's a truck. It's a red truck. It has 4 wheels. It has a horn. It has a ladder. That's building skills that they're going to need for those 5 areas of development. They need that.
I was concerned because to remove a theory that's practical, to use a hypothesis to teach our children, that's
Experimentation.
well, I would say, well, when you have a hypothesis, it's just an idea that you still have to prove. And then you remove something that has been proven to put an idea is very dangerous, especially for children that is developing, and they're at that age, they're sponge. They're just taking everything in, and that kind of amazed me.
I don't think that it was so much of a change. We've always had a reading problem. There's always been a reading problem, right? COVID did not unveil this great big reading problem. COVID unveiled the access and accessibility, right? That woke us up. But we've always had a problem in this country with reading, going back to anti-literacy laws. So I just want to preface what I'm about to say with the fact that our brains were not wired to read. We have to teach it, right? It does this great thing. It rewires itself, right, to form pathways for reading to develop. A lot of people don't understand that. It's very different than language. Language, you can put a child in a room full of people who are speaking and they will speak. You don't have to teach them how to talk, right? That is not going to happen for reading. You cannot sit someone in a room full of people who are reading, whether they're reading out loud or silently. It's not going to happen. You have to teach it to read, right? That starts very early. What we think is reading starts in kindergarten, and then we build these habits in kindergarten. And if we think that, we're 5 years already behind, right? Reading starts really at the moment of conception. How? Well, all of the stuff that mom eats, all of the environmental pressures and stress impacts the developing brain. Reading is all about the brain. The brain is the main character, right? And so if we understand that, then we have a point of reference. And so how do we build stamina, right? Because in order to learn to read and read well, you have to build stamina. I'm like, this is a race, right? Not for the quick athlete, but it's endurance. And it took us years, decades to get here. My book has only been out since August. It's not going to take months for us to get out. And so people have to come to the point where I came to and say, okay, I reflected. Now I see, and now I'm going to do better. When you know better, you do better.